All right, so I wanted to go into episode 5. We haven't done a Doomsday Prepper episode in a while, so I wanted to do this one. And in episode 5, they've got 3 different people, but I figured with you and your bunkers, why not do this one with this guy in his super bunker? He calls them survival condos. Let me play this intro clip I've got for him, and then I've got some slides and stuff as well. But let me play this real quick.
I'm building a luxury survival condominium to protect against solar flare, worldwide economic collapse, or anything Mother Nature can throw at us.
When complete, this 14-story high-rise will protect up to 70 preppers within its walls, including Larry himself.
All right, so and I've got an update too with where he's at now, because this was like 10, 11 years ago when this first came out, and it's in the beginning stages of his construction and all that. And he's actually done some pretty, me and you aren't going there, I guarantee you that. But he's actually done sunk a lot of freaking money into this stuff. This is real estate developer Larry Hall, who put together, he calls them the survival condos, and he used an abandoned missile silo, I think for the Titan missiles or something like that, and basically just revamped it and made it into basically a living quarters for, you got to be pretty rich to do it. In this, I've got these slides here I wanted to show. With this, on this first one, you can see this is kind of the construction, and then right there at the top is basically where they're working and all of that. Behind him on his shoulder is the actual entrance, I think. I'm pretty sure. You'll see later in another picture that looks like the entrance. So basically it's a flight of stairs that goes down. Really, first of all, before we get into more of this, what do you think about this whole idea? And if say you could get your hands on some sort of bunker for, thousands, maybe I think you had to pay $300,000 for this, but say something a lot cheaper. Would that be something that Brian Duff would do for, putting together his bunker?
I have strongly considered buying one of those 99-year leases on those bunkers out in the middle of that place in, I think it's South Dakota, North Dakota. Vivos, yeah. I think it is. The Vivos thing. I mean, it's a bunch of big mud pit. I think we did a Doomsday Preppers on it. So I like that. Or you know what? I'll figure it out one day, but I'll have a bunker someday. Even if my bunker just is like I don't know, even if it's like a root cellar, it'll be my bunker. I'll figure it out. But yeah, I think that's important.
Well, this guy's stuff makes, the typical bunker when you think about shipping containers and, underground, a couple 100 feet or whatever. This puts it all to shame. There's a couple questions I have. I've got a couple slides about the room, and I want to talk about what life would actually be like in there. If you were
I wonder what
the
security's like, like if you get in there and seal yourself up, is there just like, no, it's impossible for anybody to get into you? If that's the case, that's a cool thing. But if they can screw with you on the surface somehow so that you have to come out of there, then that's a bad day. Like if you can like seal that place up and be underground, like John Goodman style and Cloverfield, if you can get under there and lock yourself in, be like, yeah, I can just wait till everybody on the surface goes away. Then I guess that would be something. But if they have the ability to get in at you, man, anytime you're in a defense, you're on the defense, sometimes it's good, but when you're in a hole like that, I kind of, that's my always makes me wonder, because it's so open and out there, right? Like everybody in that area knows where that bunker and missile silo is. I bet, because it's such a big thing. It's on so many TV shows and all that,
Yeah. Yeah. And they do have a security plan. They talked about their security plan in there, and I'll get your thoughts on that. But this is basically, I've got a couple slides before we get into that. This is basically them on the first level. And it's kind of funny. I guess it makes sense. This dude's investing in all this, but his bunker is at the top. So, and he gets the whole level. This houses 70 people. In the video I'm going to play at the end, I think that's changed over the years, and now it's 75. But that's basically, there's, I think, let me look at my notes here. There's 14 stories in this missile silo that he put together. 7 of those 14 are residential. So of those 7, you've got 70, 75 people that are supposed to be in there. That means 10 people on each level. So I don't know how they divide that up, but that, that kind of shrinks up your space right
I
there
believe
too.
he has some that there's some where it's like just you or your family in it. And then there's others that are more of like, you're in a room with a couple other people kind of thing, like more bunks.
Yeah. I was wondering about that. It's like, what do you do if you're like single dude that wants to go in there? You don't have your family and all that. Do you have to bunk with somebody? or do you,
Well, I mean,
guess it
imagine
matters
it's
how
like,
much you pay, right?
I guess it's whatever you pay for, whatever you buy in. If you buy imagine he's not too discriminatory on that. Is if you want to go in and buy an entire, house to yourself or whatever, a condo, whatever it's called, and living there by yourself. I mean, if you have the money, I imagine it's like, okay. I mean, that's less impact on them, right? Like, that's more food for everybody. Well, less people to feed. So,
yeah. And like he's going to turn down $10 million or whatever.
right.
I think he said too that he's got about 3 of these left. So out of 70, he's definitely made his money back. This picture right here is the room. And this is the size of one, I guess, sliver of one of the levels. So it's not, terribly small, and the ceilings are high. He said he did that stuff on purpose. So it's not terribly small, but 6, 8 months, I guess it wouldn't be too bad. If you had, or even just a couple months, I guess it wouldn't be too bad. But that kind of shows the living quarters that you get for $1 or $2 million, basically.
I imagine not
to
seeing
buy
the sun
into.
for 8. I imagine that would be like drive you stir crazy being in there, not seeing the sun for 8 months.
Yeah. Well, and he even said in the show, he's got those stupid, I guess if you're staring at concrete, they're not really stupid, but they've got those windows that look like, you can make it look like you're underwater, or, some of the stuff you see in those futuristic movies. So just, I guess, mentally give your head that illusion that you're not stuck 100 feet underground. But
Oh no, man.
yeah, I guess if you're the things that he's doing down there, I'll play this clip.
I guess submarine crews go under for long periods of time, so.
Yeah, you get used to it. I'll play this clip of what his plans were in this, and then, like I said, towards the end, I'm going to play a video from Business Insider that shows where he is now. But this is what his plans were for in 2011, 2012, whenever this was.
In Larry's condos, you're supposed to feel like you are on vacation, not like you're surviving Doomsday.
We've got a swimming pool, we've got exercise rooms, we have a library and classroom, we've got a movie theater, we've got a bar and lounge in here.
So it's pretty, I guess, luxurious when you're talking about a missile silo, right? You've got all that stuff. Plus, I'm sure there's levels they need for equipment, water filtration, gardening, all that stuff. Maybe, and we're going to go into the security in a bit, but maybe one level to lock up the guns and all of that stuff. So
sure.
But with 7 levels and 75 people, dude has made, dude has made some money. I think he's put
smart.
in.
I mean, he marketed well, and hopefully it's it's all set. I mean, it looks like he has a plan anyway. I mean, he has a much better bunker to go hide out in than I do.
Yeah.
Than you do. So
no kidding. Well, and he got everybody to pay for it, all these rich fat cats to pay for it. It's kind of like what is that, Vivos? The other luxury bunkers.
About.
Yeah.
That's what we just talked about.
So this is kind of the same thing, just not on that large scale. I think he might have been the original one, and then Vivos decided to take it to the next level. But anyway, you had mentioned the security aspect, and I wanted to. In the show they talked about how he's got a 4-stage security plan, and I wanted to kind of go through those and then get your thoughts on them. The first stage, and this is pretty typical, it's the barbed wire fence around the perimeter of the property, and not something. And I don't think any fence, regardless where you are, is going to stop anybody if they want to get in. That's why this is like the perimeter aspect of it, and it's the first level of defense. I think, and I don't know what this is, just from a little segment on the show. I think I would have done this more like a prison or something, with all the rolls of barbed wire and all that stuff, rather than just the fence. Because anybody that wants to can get over the fence. If they got a jacket to throw over the barbed wire, you're over
Yeah.
the fence. But what are your thoughts
Yeah.
on this part
I
of it?
mean, I imagine it looks like out there you can see people from coming from a long way. But yeah, I agree.
Flat.
Putting concertina wire, razor wire, some triple stand concertina wire in front of that fence, so that way it makes it harder to get up and do anything, would be a good idea. And I don't know, do they have that? Is there sensors on the fence? Who knows what else they have there? But I have that sense, have sensors around there so you can tell when people are doing stuff, if they're climbing up on the fence.
And
line
that's
or anything like that.
Yeah, that's the next level of their defense. They do have motion sensors, fingerprint scanners, cameras, all of those different things to kind of alert them. They've got the camera system inside the bunker, and they're going to have people that the residents are going to have to work, and they're going to have to do shifts like monitoring that stuff, doing gardening and all that. So they are going to have those alert systems. So those two, I think that's about all you can do, right? I mean,
yeah, they're definitely making good strides at it. I think you can always do stuff, right? You can always continue to improve your security posture. And it gets down to that point, is the squeeze worth the juice? Is what you're doing going to really help your security, or is it a waste of money, waste of time, waste of resources? But it sounds like, they got barbed wire fences, camera, like you said, fingerprint readers, motion detectors, and all that. It sounds like a pretty solid setup to get going,
Yeah. And then, other than that hole in the very beginning where they were doing construction, and you can see this is a shot from the other angle where that hole is basically behind my picture. But this is, I believe, the only entrance, and this is 9-foot concrete that somebody would have to get through. And I don't know how big the door is and all of that stuff. So if this is the only entrance, I do see that pipe there. I don't know if that's air ventilation or what, but there are some things, anybody with a little bit of, know-how could actually chase people out of the bunker.
Yeah. it depends. I don't know what the systems are. Like, what happens if you get that pipe open, and can you pour stuff down it that, I don't know, can you fill up that thing, put a garden hose on there and come back in a week and they're all like full of water? I don't know.
Yeah.
But it would be like, is there something that the people on the top could do to make you come out? It's like, if you're in a nuclear submarine and you're under the ice, it's most likely no one's going to make you come out from that. You'll have to come out for, when you need food. But I don't know if the same applies here. Like, are they able to withstand anything happening on the surface? Or if people come and try to, something bad, the world goes to hell and they're living in there, and the band of the Golden Horde kind of stuff shows up, does everybody in there have to get out and go to fighting positions, defend the compound kind of thing? Or do they just sealed up, It's pretty cool though.
And that's the next part I've got on this. But I think having one access point, there's the pros and cons to this, because one, you're stuck in this missile silo, but at the same time, there's only one access point for them to get in. So with this though, you were talking about their defense system, and he said, if they do get in, he wouldn't say how many guns he had. He said it's top secret, basically. But he did talk about tens of thousands of rounds of ammunition. So they have a lot of firepower in there.
Yeah, when he says tens of thousands of rounds, if you have 75 people and you have 1,000 rounds of ammo, that's like not a lot of, you're talking, a few hundred rounds on just your basic load, and then if you throw some more for your pistol, you're halfway into your 1,000 rounds, and that's 75,000 round, right? That'd be 75,000 rounds of ammo, 1,000 rounds. And you go to a pistol course, a good pistol course, you're going to burn 1,500 rounds in a week. So, I kind of wonder, like, when he says thousands, maybe enough to defend, but what is that? But again, he has a good plan so far, everything he's done. So I imagine they have that fairly well covered and thought out as well.
Yeah. There's only so much you can do. You're in a bunker. Yeah. So,
and if you're in a missile silo, I think you're doing about the best you can do, right?
Yeah. One thing, and I forgot to get the picture of it, and we saw it in the beginning of that clip we played with that big barrel. That was basically one of the water tanks, 75,000 gallons of water, or 25,000 gallons of water, basically. And he said with 70 people, he expects that to last several months. And he also said he's got like 5 years worth of food. And they have aquaponics and stuff like that in there as well. So, as I always say, you only have as much food as you have water to last. So if you've got a couple months of water, doesn't matter if you've got 5 years worth of food. But I suppose rationing and all that, I'm sure who knows what he's doing now. But that's it'll last a couple months anyway. Better than nothing. I wonder, when I was watching this, I wonder if anybody who paid their $4 million or whatever they had to pay to get their little spot in there decided to go there during the pandemic. You think people were hiding out in their missile silo?
I imagine he sold a lot. I imagine he sold a lot of it because of the pandemic. And heck, I would have gone there for a while. Like, why not? Like, hey, I mean, especially when it first starts going, when something first starts happening, you're like, wow, is this really at this point? I mean, you look back to March of 2020, February of 2020, when people were fighting over toilet paper, it would kind of felt like, hey, this can go either way right now, right? Like if they didn't know enough about coronavirus at the time, and if coronavirus came out to where it was killing like 5% of the people or more, then I think you would have seen like, oh, there would have been a big problem. Like if it was, 5% of the people are dying, then I think it would have been a different story for how things went. So, when it starts to happen, you just never know. And the people, when things start to happen that say, oh, this isn't really happening, oh no, this is bullshit. Okay. I think you need to be a little careful calling bullshit early on anything, because if you're wrong, then you're committed to it's kind of bullshit. Right. So, I would like to have the bunker to say, hey, you know what? the economy is getting really, it's August. We're paying $10 a gallon for gas. A loaf of bread is, on sales $10.95, and that's at the best. That's a day old, 2-day old Wonder Bread or something like that kind of thing, or expired Wonder Bread. And things are really going down. People are starting to rob, loot grocery stores, and there's food riots. Like, I wouldn't mind going to the bunker then. Like, hey, we got 5 years of food, and so I think it's again,
I paid
like
$4 million.
Yeah, and we've talked about it, like right, having those tripwires and knowing when to go, and part of knowing when to go is having a place to go. What are you going to do? Go bug out to the woods? If it's so bad in the cities, you and every other knucklehead that goes out to the woods. Now it's like, what are you doing in the woods with one another? So,
yeah. See, I'm so, if I'm paying for something, I'd want to use it. So I'd be taking the family on vacation once a year to the missile silo.
Oh, dude, I think it'd be a great place to do the show from. Doing the show from a missile silo would just be awesome.
Yeah, no kidding. Even if it was like in this show before it was all finished and stuff, that'd be pretty cool. Kind of on what you were talking about, they did talk about in this, and I got this clip about how people, a bigger percentage of the population than most people think, are more concerned about something going down, and I imagine that's even more so these days than they are with retirement and all that. But I wanted to mention something before we get into that. In the show, they had this chick, Sarah, who was a potential buyer and all that. She was a suburban housewife. I don't know about all of that. I think there's a little bit more of that story, but they were talking. I thought it was kind of funny because they're like, she wants to remain anonymous. And in the first shot, they showed the top half of her face. And then a couple minutes later, they showed the bottom half of her face. And I'm like, this is anonymous. I mean, if anybody wants to figure out who this woman is, they're going to figure it out. But at any rate, I just thought that was kind of funny. But I want to play this clip after they talked about her, about people and their kind of apprehension with the disasters and all that stuff, and thinking that, this stuff is possible. It's a lot more than what you hear on mainstream media. And I guarantee you it's even more so these days. Let me play this clip real quick.
Many Americans can identify with Sarah's sense of impending dread. A recent poll found that 41% of Americans feel that preparing for a disastrous event is more important than saving for retirement, and over half believe some kind of catastrophic event will occur in the next 10 years.
Now, these days, I would kind of say, yeah, that makes sense. But 10 years ago, 11 years ago, that would have, and probably did. I don't remember this from that long ago, but it probably would be like, you know what? That's kind of a higher number than I thought. I figured maybe it was 10 to 20%, 30% maybe, but that's a pretty high number, I think. These days, I bet you it's even more so.
Yeah. Well, I think we're seeing that, right? We talked about, there's that article over Epoch Times or something like that I read that was talking about like it's the security and preparedness industries are supposed to like quadruple in size, in the next year. It's a lot of people are seeing it. The more it was easy in the 90s to not be a prep. I mean, because think about it, in the 90s you were considered a survivalist, and then the 2000 you were considered a crazy prepper. And now it's more and more, it's becoming mainstream. Like, okay, you're not the wacko, survivalist. You're just a crazy prepper. Now you're not a crazy, now it's like, well, you're kind of right. I mean, there's articles out in the mainstream talking about the preppers were right. So,
Yeah.
It's in the 90s, it was
More
good
and more
times.
often.
The more bad times we have, the more people want to become prepared, the more, because it's not just about preparedness, right? When we're the crazy prepper types, but you have the homesteaders, right? The people that are all in on homesteading that are out there doing stuff. Their area is like, you're seeing a mass influx in that as well.
Yeah. And they may not be, preparing for, civil unrest and stuff like that, like preppers are, but they see the writing on the wall too, going, this is bonkers. This stuff is insane. I'm getting out of here. We're going to do this. We're living on our own. We're, we're going back to, nature, I suppose, or back to, simpler times and stuff like that. This last clip I'm going to play is kind of talks about that. I'm going to link to the entire video in the description of this, because they did talk about how the survivalism industry is picking up. And this video right here was from during right after the beginning of the pandemic, sometime last year, I think. But it shows the progress that he's made on his bunker system. I think he's only got like 3 spots left. So he's made a lot of money. The one thing before we get to this video, the practical preppers at the end of the show, the one thing they did say is that instead of, and I'm wondering what he did, he should get people with certain skills to be in that bunker. So be that medical, be that military, whatever. I don't know. He was kind of wishy-washy. He didn't really give a good answer with it. I don't know that is really his concern. I think his bank account is his concern. So, and I think that's probably the case with a lot of any of these things where they're taking, the rich and famous and the powerful and all that and putting them in there. I think the security and the actual longevity of this is secondary. What are your thoughts on that? Or do you think he actually?
What's that?
Do you think he actually, after that or since then, has put some effort into getting people, maybe giving a couple military guys a couple bunks in there and some.
Well, I think I mean, I imagine when you're looking at the kind of people that can afford to put a place in that, you're looking at probably doctors and people have money, and then they're paying all the money now getting in there. I imagine he has the ability to maybe go, hey, you're a doctor or something, I'll give you a discount to come and get a place and set up stuff. So I imagine it was I think he had the opportunity to address it. Obviously don't know if he has, but I think with as much stuff as he's putting into the security system, it looks like, and everything else, and as much as he's putting into it, that it wouldn't be a stretch to think, hey, I got a couple of people here who can run a doctor and a nurse can run a little clinic, someone who, I mean, you need somebody to cook, like imagine they, somebody to help cook or whatever they have going on. And there's a bunch of different maintenance, all of that. So.
Yeah, I'd at the very least be giving them a list of prepper lessons or something. This is what we're going to need in here. So, this is the types of things that are going to be necessary. So I would suggest you, research a little bit about this and that. But let me play this last clip of how he's done, and then we'll end this segment. But pretty cool. I mean, kudos to the dude. He set up a fantastic bunker. None of us or maybe 99.99% of us that listen to the show and do the show, are going to see the inside of that unless it's a tour or something. But pretty neat, though. Let me play this clip.
This luxury bunker condo complex is decked out with a pool, rock climbing wall, and movie theater, and it's all reserved for the ultra-rich. Housed in a former missile silo, the survival condo project has 12 apartments that can cost up to $4.5 million apiece. After $20 million and 6 years of restoration, Larry transformed the retired silo into a survivalist's dream.
We have residential level 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. Then there's a library and classroom, exercise and spa, a theater and lounge, and then pumps and storage.
Equipped with 15 stories of living space and amenities, the luxury bunker can sustain at least 75 inhabitants for 5 years.
So he must have increased the whole water thing, because 5 years, they must have figured out how to pump some in or something like that. But pretty cool. I mean, it looks like a lot different now than it did during the Doomsday Preppers episode.
Yeah. He's made a lot of progress on it. Well, I mean, with the pandemic, imagine he had a bunch of people that were, signing up, man.
Wouldn't surprise me if like Elon Musk and, some of those guys, Bill Gates has probably got something in Vivos and all that, probably a whole wing, for his personal stuff. But pretty cool though. I mean, a little bit jealous, but
75 people at a gallon a day. If you could get by on a gallon a day, right? 75 people for 5 years, that'd be 136,875 gallons.
136,000 in a missile silo. And he said one of those tanks, like in the beginning clip, was 25.
Okay.
So you're looking at, 6, 7, 8 of those. Maybe. I mean, I don't know.
Recycling and different things, reusing gray water, diverting gray water and stuff. Who knows? I don't know.
Yeah.
He has lots of Berkeys.
Yeah. Maybe he dug outside of the bunker or something. Yeah. Lots of Berkeys. But anyway, I just thought that was a pretty cool episode or segment of the Doomsday Preppers episode. Nothing that, like I said, nothing that most of us could afford, but kind of cool to look at. The realities of prepping are way different than that, because if you've got the money to do that stuff, you probably don't care. So I don't know how much I'd call somebody who buys a spot in there a prepper. But if you got the money and that's type of the climate change, the pandemic, all that stuff worries you. Yeah. You got the money. Yeah. Why not? If I was Musk, I'd be buying one of those rather than Twitter.
That guy probably already has it.
Yeah, I'm sure he does. He's probably got a rocket ship that he's just going to float in space. That's going to be his private. I'm sure he has something set up.
Hey everyone, thanks again for watching.
Absolutely. Just as a reminder, you can help us defeat the censors by liking, subscribing, and sharing this or any of our videos. Don't forget to click the link below and visit the website. Over there, you can listen to any of the older podcast episodes and also get on the email list.
And best of all, you can help us give the finger to both the apocalypse and the censors alike.